Hello and welcome back to another week of The Agenda, a talk show that talks at issues currently in the news. My name is Livvy and this week we discuss the issues that have been raised in the LGBT community and chat to three people with stories to tell and experiences to share. First though, let's take a quick look at the vibrant Manchester LGBT community and the 2017 Manchester Pride.
Manchester has a long history of promoting equality and diversity across all groups and was at the forefront of promoting LGBT rights in the UK. It continues to be the home of a thriving gay village and one of the largest LGBT communities in the world. Manchester is the home of festivals like Pride, Queer Up North and Get Bent, as well as the celebrations around LGBT month. Love is love, equality to all.
So there you are, #proud to love. That's a very strong message. Now let's introduce our guests on the agenda this evening. Ross Bickerdike, Sophie Woodley and Natasha Brooke. Welcome to the show. Now let's start with Ross, an LGBT student at Salford University who has been a part of a BBC Three documentary that focuses on younger people coming out to their parents. So Ross, how was this experience for you and why did you take part in the show?
Well, I wanted to take part in the show because I knew that it was going to help people, because it's what helped me. I used to watch YouTube videos of people actually filming their coming out or just talking about it, and that's what helped me come to terms with my sexuality, and it sort of helped me know how to do it. So I knew that like a documentary that was going to be on BBC Three, it's like an elevated YouTube video anyway, so I knew it would help people. But actually filming the documentary, it was like a really eye-opening experience because like the producer and director we had, they were fantastic. Like they sort of got me talking about things that I didn't know I could talk about, and like I got to go to Pride for the first time, which like we saw, it's just a lot of fun and my straight friends came with me. It's just like a party almost. So yeah, it opened my eyes to things that I didn't even know about the community, and I think that translated in the documentary and it's been a big help for people.
And how was it filming with such a big company?
It was daunting at times because like coming out is a private thing, but I think it was more my parents that saw it as a private thing. Like I wanted it to be like out and proud and for everybody to know, whereas they were a bit more introverted about it all. But I think now that I've talked to them after the documentary, they're glad that they've done it because they've seen that it's helped people.
And how was your experience coming out?
It was fine. My parents, I thought that they were going to have a slight bad reaction because of things that they'd said in the past. But it turned out to be fine, and it was just me building it up in my head, which is what I think a lot of people do, and that's why coming out is a scary thing when it shouldn't be.
So Sophie, you identify as bisexual. Now Ross had a good experience coming out, and how was your experience coming out?
Mine was very mixed. I think in terms of my friends, that was very, very positive, and I think I couldn't be happier with how they reacted. I think my family wasn't so positive at first. I think it wasn't really the reaction that I wanted, but I think over time they kind of learnt to accept it, and the more they realised it's not actually a big deal and the more understanding they had of why. So I think bisexuality as well, there's like a bit more confusion around it at times. I think that was a struggle with my family, but I think over time when they kind of learned to understand it more, then they've learned to be more accepting.
Do you feel like there's any prejudice within the LGBT community to bisexuals?
I feel like I've not really experienced it personally, but I know other people that have, and I can definitely see a lot of it. And I know a lot of bisexual people that are in a relationship with the opposite gender, and a lot of their friends in the community have said that when they're in their relationships, they have kind of heterosexual couple acceptance. And I think it is kind of, I think there is definitely a lot of prejudice against bisexuality in the LGBT community, but I think they are starting to become a lot more accepted, which is good.
So obviously coming out is a different experience for everybody. Have either of you got any friends that have had a bad experience coming out?
A slight bad experience. My boyfriend, when he came out, his dad's first reaction, he said, was to kick him out of the house, but after like taking the time to think about it, he realised like it's his son, so he's going to support him. But I can't think of any really bad reactions from any friends that I've got. It tends to be like the individual that thinks it's going to be worse, and then it is actually more accepted than we think.
Sophie?
I think a lot of my friends, their reactions have been like not exactly as bad as their parents can come out, but the parents have been just a bit confused and not accepting, which I think can also be very hard. But I think, like I think over time, parents do tend to accept it a bit more once they're kind of used to their lifestyle.
So at the moment, there is a great deal of press and publicity about the LGBT community, positive and negative. So what does your sexuality mean to you, and where do you feel you stand within the community?
It's difficult because I sort of want to think that sexuality is a big thing and you need to talk about it to get people to be okay with it. But on the other hand, it's sort of like it is only a small part, and there's more interesting things to a person, like what their hobbies are and interests. So it's quite confusing, and I sort of think, should I talk about it more, or should I just keep it to myself? And just because like straight people don't go around like saying, hi, I'm straight, but in a way they do, because they're being themselves. When I'm being gay, I'm just being myself, but people do see that as like pushing it in people's faces, but it's not really.
Sophie?
I mean, I think it is important to me because it is a part of who I am, and I'm not ashamed of it. But also, I don't want it to be the only thing that people see when they see me, which is similar to what you said, because I believe that there are other interesting parts about me other than my sexuality.
With this rise in publicity, some people think the issue of gender has gone too far, and one grammar school has banned the use of the word girls, preferring to use the word students. So next guest is Natasha, and you have an interest in the current debate around gender and gender fluidity. So how do you feel about this?
Well, I'm not actually in the community myself, but my sister identifies as bisexual, and a lot of my friends they're gender fluid, they don't really see gender. So really, I think about when it comes to like the issue of the school, I think if they are like a grammar school for girls, then they really should think about changing their name if they're going to just refer to the students as students, because in the end of the day they're kind of contradicting themselves by the way they've put grammar school for girls, but then they're not labelling the girls as what they actually are. And I understand that some people, they are quite sensitive about where they stand if they're like transitioning with the transgender student, but at the end of the day I think people's gender does mean a significant amount to them, and it is personal to them. So I think that it's a tricky one, but I do think they should just call them girls, because that essentially is what the school is for. And when it comes to the issue of gender, I'm an avid follower of fashion. I love fashion, and a lot of my friends, they embrace fashion. They dress the way they want to dress. What do you think that masculine and feminine actually has to be? I think that clothes, the way that they are genderless these days, and more celebrities are picking up the style of like different things, and they're experimenting with gender and what gender could actually mean. I think it's very influential, and it's important that young people know that they don't have to be labelled as one thing. They can transition, they can be whatever they want to. It's more personal to them. I don't think that there should be as much stick in any sort of community to tell people who they should be and what they should wear. Like for example, with like Jaden Smith, he went out into a festival wearing a dress, and I think like he's such a great role model, and he's been in the media for a long time, and I think it's great that he's doing that. He's taking on those challenges and showing people that a boy can go out and wearing a dress. There's nothing wrong with that at all.
So do you think this is an LGBT issue, people wearing whatever clothes they want, or has it just kind of been placed on the LGBT community?
I think it has been placed on the LGBT community, because gender, everybody has a gender, they can identify how they want. But I think going back to the fact that it's a school sort of trying to call people something they don't want to be called, when you're at school, that's the time that you're developing and trying to like discover who you are. So if they're trying to, even though they're trying to like brand them just as students rather than girls, they're still boxing people into something that they maybe don't want to be called. Like everybody's an individual. They should sort of take the time to know what that individual wants to be identified as. But yeah, I think gender is something that affects everyone. Like everybody should be able to dress how they want, and like it's a performative thing. Gender, like you shouldn't just have to be a boy or a girl. Like, you can be a mix, you can be whatever you want to be.
Sophie, have you had any friends who've had trouble with gender at school?
No, and I actually have grown up in all-girls schools from when I was 11 all the way up to 18, and I think we were always referred to as girls, ladies, and I think I actually don't know anyone that had a problem with that, but I also think in the past couple of years there has been a lot more changes, because I think obviously when I was younger, like 11, 12, 13, which was like the younger days at the school, no one really had heard of gender fluidity, and I certainly haven't. So I think that then it probably wasn't seen as an issue, but I think now gender fluidity is something that a lot of people identify themselves as. So I think it probably will be looked over a lot more than it was back then.
One other issue within the LGBT community, which is getting people worked up, is the plan for an LGBT-only housing community in Salford, with as many people for it as against. So what do you think about this?
I think that I think it's a really good thing. I think the scheme is, if it's getting people off the streets and knowing that they will be safe, they've got a community of people who are there for them and to support them, I think it is a really positive thing, and it's a great change within, like, it's doing something positive and it's changing a lot of people's lives.
How do you guys feel about this community?
I think it is a good thing, like it's got good intentions, but I can't also help thinking that it's going to be targeted. It's almost as if, like, when you find out where a celebrity lives, you're going to go to their house. It's like if somebody has a thing against gay people, you know where they're going to live, so I can't help thinking that there is going to be hate crimes and things. But yeah, it is a good thing, like people need somewhere to go if they don't have a house, and I think because it's going to be LGBT people living there, it's going to be a community, so people will help each other out, like, no matter what happens.
But do you not think, though, as a community, it's kind of is boxing in LGBT people, like you said earlier, about how you shouldn't, you know, straight people don't have to come out as straight, they just are. Like, surely this community is not making a spectacle, but it's saying this is a group of LGBT people. Shouldn't we rather be trying to integrate with everybody?
Yeah, it's interesting, but I do think, like, if you've been kicked out of your house after coming out, you do need that starting block to get back into society, and I think that's what this is offering.
Yeah. So thank you for talking to us today and coming into the studio. It's been fantastic to meet you all. Sadly, that's our discussion over for this week, but join us next week where we'll be joined by a fabulous up-and-coming female comedian.